Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Shavua Tov. A good week to everyone. I am, of course, Ariel Bar Tzadok. And welcome to an open class here in our Kosher Torah School, which you'll find online at www.KosherTorah.com. Well, in our little Motzei Shabbat class now, we're going to discuss a topic which seems to be on everybody's mind. And that seems to be the topic of sex. Sex is such a big deal. We know about it from all different areas in our society. It's everywhere. Everybody knows it. So let's just jump right in because we got a lot to talk about. And as you know, I have no notes. I don't prepare classes. Whatever comes out of here, comes out of there, comes out of here. It's all one. So we're just going to let it roll. Number one, let's just start from the beginning. Whenever we want to talk about the topic of sex, we have to recognize it within a Torah context and not in a context outside. In other words, I'm talking Torah, so that's why I'm going to speak from a Torah point of view. And that is that sex is considered sacred in our tradition. All right? We are not puritanical. We don't have a Christian concept of duality, of spiritual good and physical bad, and therefore sex is bad, it's to be tolerated, and no more. Now, this we actually see as a perversion, a psychological aberration, and it is seeping into the Jewish community more in the extremist right wing, in which you will see a denial of the feminine, a denial of femininity. This expressions, and you see it every now and then in the ultra-Orthodox circles, this is a psychological aberration. There's nothing less to call it. In other words, it's a mental illness. And I think a number of people in the professional mental health field will, if they're going to be honest, will acknowledge it. It's really bad stuff. All right? Let's understand something. Sex is natural. Sex is good. Sex is healthy. Sex is spiritual. Sex is beautiful. We, in our Torah tradition, have no problem with sex. We talk about it very graphically amongst the rabbis, especially in Kabbalistic literature. But yet at the same time, we recognize that sexuality has its parameters in place. And this is vital to understand. A general rule of all life, please understand, everything is energy. Everything is energy. The physical, the spiritual are just two sides of the same coin of energy. You cannot separate energy. Everything must be in balance. This is a no-brainer. We all know this. Compare it. And, for those of you who are on Facebook and you read my little blurbs that I put out there, I actually wrote this right after Shabbat was over. Because these are the thoughts, it's been Rosh Chodesh now of the month of Ab. We're in the period where we contemplate the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. And next Saturday night, which is actually the fast, I'm planning to have a class. We're going to talk just about that. But the point is, the psychological problems that happened thousands of years ago still exist with us today. And that's where we're at today. And that's what's motivating my mind to try to help us understand things, what the natural way is, the natural Torah is. So understand this, with everything being energy, compare sex to food. We all have to eat, yes. Sex is a natural, normal expression of human life, yes. Okay? But what happens if you overeat? Well, you will make your body sick. And if you continue to overeat and you do not safeguard your physical health, right, all types of illnesses occur, which will eventually lead to your premature death. No brainer. Everybody knows this. Okay? Here, KosherTorah School of me, always talk about the absolute importance of physical health. Obesity is not just unhealthy. It's an avera, a sin. Rambam Maimonides writes about this in his code, that if you're obese, if you're overweight, and we're talking about 5 cosmetic pounds overweight, we're talking about real problems. On Yom Kippur, when you got to do your repentance there, you got to repent of that. It's a big deal. Sexuality is the same thing, because sex is energy, and it has its proper place, it has its proper time, and it has its proper context. So you'll see I subtitled this little class here, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. No, we're not puritanical in our denial of sex or sexual purity or sexual enjoyment. Halacha. Women, if you're married, hold your husbands to this halacha. It says so very clearly in the Code of Jewish Law. A man is obligated by law to bring his wife to climax before he himself is allowed to climax. That requires discipline. It's almost tantric, which is an Eastern Oriental term, about the extension of sexual pleasure. Let me digress to discuss that for a moment. There's a very famous story in the Gemara about one of the great sages in Talmudic times who, like every other human being, gets tempted. There is this alleged great Zona prostitute who is alleged to have 7 beds of erotica in her prostitution practice. Well, he succumbed to some temptation and he went to see her. And as he was undressing his talit katan, he was taking it off, he saw the tzitzit. The Gemara says that tzitzit slapped him in the face. In other words, he became ashamed of himself, overcame his temptation, and split. This gal, who was apparently top madam of the field, was, wow, who is this guy who had such ability, discipline to overcome her temptations? She was so shocked by this guy's being able to, turn her away, that she went to the Rosh Hashiva. She says, who is this guy? What is this Torah? What's going on here? She was so impressed that she ends up converting to Judaism, marries the Talmid Chacham. Now, this is the moral of the story. What does she do within her 7 beds of lust? Burns them and throws them out to do tshuva? It says that they used the 7 beds in their sacred sexuality as husband and wife. So the erotic of the 7 beds isn't what's so bad. It's how it was used that makes it bad. Just like with food. Sex is spiritual energy. For those of you who want to talk a little bit of Kabbalah here, fine. You know the central column of the Sefirot. Yesod is corresponding to the genitalia. The genitalia is sexuality, libido, orgone, chi energy. All right? Actually, jing is the sexual energy, but it's the same thing. It has to go up, not down. When you disconnect sexuality from being sacred and use it just as a physical gratification, which is what's so prominent today, it disconnects the yesod down below with the tiferet, which is the level right above it. In other words, you disconnect your body from your heart. And when that happens, you disconnect from the dot and the keter above. Now, men and women, male, female, give, take, very different energies with regards to sexuality. And this is why it is, in my opinion, and I think natural order, extremely devastating on women, specifically to be promiscuous. For women, the Zohar says this: from every male she receives from, there's an essence of his energy absorbed into her soul. And it puts layer upon layer upon layer upon her yesod, blocking the way to her tiferet. And I've seen from experience, I've been a pastoral counselor for 30 years, the more promiscuous a woman is, the greater difficulty she has of having a heart-to-heart bond with a true partner. Now, that doesn't mean she can't get married. Doesn't mean she can't have kids. All right, I've seen a lot of women, all right, get married, have kids. But when I speak to them privately, I said, how deep is that love between you and your husband? They'll say, yeah, well, I love him, but, or, yeah, it's deep, but. What's all these but stuff? They know there's something there. They know it. Now, I'm a guy, all right? I can only speak about what the books say, what women tell me. I am not, a woman that I can experience this. Personally, I've never been a promiscuous guy. That's, I'm a rabbi. It's just not the way I am. But guys, they don't get away from this scot-free either. When a man is promiscuous, he's also absorbing from the female. And again, it puts layer upon layer upon layer on the yesod, blocking the way to the tiferet. Now, frankly, the Zohar has always said that this is irreconcilable. You can't fix it. That the layers and layers are there permanently. Ruach shehebek ba'ala is what it's called. I've tried for 30 years in counseling to try to work on this, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think I've been successful. And gosh, I try to rectify this. Now, like I said, I've worked with couples for years, and practically speaking, there are words from an old 1960s rock and roll song, which states, if you can't be with the one you love, then love the one you're with. So practically speaking, from the point of view of counseling, all right, I don't like to see marriages ever break up. I'm a recently divorced man, just a couple months ago gave the get. And I will never go and explain or speak derogatorily against my ex, because that is something we just do not do in public. That is whatever. No one should ever do that. Okay? God bless her. She goes her way. I go now my way. But my point is, if a marriage can be salvageable, then you learn to live with one another. You might not have the deepest of bonds of souls like soulmates, but you become good friends. You become, hopefully, best friends, trusted friends. And you make the best of what you have, if you can. If not, then it's a mitzvah to divorce. Okay? That's just the way it is. But now with single people. Single people, when I was preparing and announcing this class, somebody said, oh, I better make references to sex in and out of marriage. Well, fine. Let's talk about the halacha, the laws of sex in and out of marriage. Number one, it is not forbidden from halacha for a woman who is not a virgin to be sexually active with a man, all right, outside of marriage. It can be done, all right? There's all kinds of halacha, and people all know about it. But that is not the point, right? Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. And somebody mentioned to me, what about the biblical law of a concubine, a pelegish? Well, let me tell you about this pelegish relationship. Number one, it is clearly, definitively long-term and monogamous. It is almost a lifetime commitment, as if husband and wife. It is defined by contract written down. Go read the Yabetz, who's the Rabbi Yaakov Emden, who wrote the laws of these things, right? You don't just hook up with a guy and a girl and you just say, well, as long as you've immersed yourself in a mikvah or something like that, then it's okay. Technically speaking, that's fine. Just like technically speaking, it's okay to eat a half gallon of ice cream topped off with candy and sugar and everything else. I mean, it's not halachically prohibited from the laws of kashrut. But at the same time, you're going to give yourself a heart attack. Please understand that just because the letter of the law allows something doesn't mean it's psychically, spiritually, or psychologically healthy. Sex was always supposed to be an expression of the heart. It's a symbol of the bonding of partnerships. And we all know when you have a true love for another human being, it's not always erotic, but it's intimate. It's close. I always tell couples, it doesn't matter how you get along in bed. It matters how you get along outside of bed. How you can live day by day as a couple, as two human beings who transcend the superficiality of attraction to get to the essence of what it is to be two human beings. I'll share with you some personal experiences, which something I'm very rarely going to ever do here in a public forum, but due to the nature of this topic, I feel I have to. Since now I'm a divorced man, right? I'm still young, I'm still healthy, God bless. I'm looking for a new rabbanit for our KosherTorah school. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But something I've never done in my entire life, I've never actually gone out there and dated. I've heard so much about the online dating scene. I thought I'd go on to check it out. I put myself up there and see what's out there. My gosh. Oh my goodness. Now I understand why people are having such hard times. I mean, my goodness, I'm meeting a number of very nice individuals. Now, I don't mess around. You should know that. I'm very, very strict with that. Why? Because I recognize energy, right? If I'm going to give myself to some woman physically, she should darn well know my heart's going to go with the rest of me, because that's just the way I am. Maybe other guys aren't like that. I am. Okay? Other people, they don't get this kind of stuff. They don't understand where I'm coming from. I have met so many individuals, I can't understand how they carry so much psychological baggage with them in all these kinds of things. It's amazing. I mean, I'm old school, right? I remember the old days when you had like you meet somebody and you show respect and you act with courtesy, you dress up, you be nice. Like Edgar Allan Poe would say, quoth the raven, nevermore. Not for me. I ain't gonna go like that, right? And I really feel sorry for those of you who are single who have to go like that. So I have some advice. Ladies, don't you dare give up your body to some pig, yes, sorry, but I have to say it, who wants to look at you as just a physical object for his gratification. Even if you feel that you need it, don't ever degrade yourselves. Men, don't you dare act like pigs. You treat women with the respect that is due them. You act like a gentleman. And if you're on a date, dress up. Take the lady out like she deserves. Ladies, you act like ladies. Gentlemen, you act like gentlemen. Get to know one another. Transcend the physicalities and the facades and learn to be true human beings. And if you can build a relationship together, that deep romantic bond, like soulmate stuff. Well, the Gemara talks about that. The Kabbalah talks about that. They said maybe in previous lifetimes that might have attracted to us. But today we are so convoluted, all of us technically like contaminated with so many interactions of energies. It's almost impossible to get all the klipot off the yesod between the yesod and the tiferet. So we try to, keep the layers low, but we do the best with what we've got. So build together, work together. Yeah, building relationships are hard. And sometimes sexuality serves as an hindrance because you think because you have a sexual attraction and you act upon it and you're mingling all these energies, but then you don't have the rest and it rips it apart and, rips and tears, they leave scars. And I've never known a man or a woman who escaped without psychological or psychic scarring because of this type of promiscuity. It ain't good. And like I said, so don't even bother to try. Okay? You want to do tikkun and rectifications? I've seen, for example, they have this group now in the Jewish circles where many women who've had promiscuous pasts believe that by dressing up in black burqas and stuff like that, that somehow that rectifies it. It doesn't rectify anything. It makes the problem worse. Okay? Sexuality is beautiful. Sensuality is beautiful. But let's talk about the issue of modesty. Okay? Number one, modesty is a cultural definition of a context. We sexualize our culture today. And as every woman knows better than any man, a woman can be wearing a skirt down to her ankles and sleeves to the wrist, and she could look like she's, shall we say, for hire. You know what I mean, right? We find this problem even amongst the religious circles. It's not the length of a skirt or the length of your sleeve that makes you modest. It's your demeanor. It's everything about you. It's how you look and how you present yourselves. That's true for women. So therefore, how we present ourselves is everything. That's the actual definition of what we call in Hebrew tzniut. It is very clear and definitive in halakha, Jewish law, Married women do not have to cover their hair today. If you wish to, go right ahead. If you don't wish to, that's also fine. And you can say, well, the Zohar says. We don't hold halacha like the Zohar. The Zohar is an opinion. If you want to believe it, believe it. And if you don't, that's fine. Wearing pants, personally, I wouldn't marry a woman who wasn't willing to wear pants, because that to me is normal. All right? I'm not into costumes. I'm not into make-believe. I'm into normal. Okay? So that's just the way I am. Yeah, totally fine. But there's a difference between pants and pants. There's a difference between dress that's intentionally provocative and dress which is intentionally modest. Everybody knows this. I think it's common sense. Everything is energy. You want to draw to yourself unwanted attention and energy? By all means. It's your consequences to deal with, not mine. This is why we talk about psychic and spiritual self-defense. It's really very simple when you become simple, when you start seeing energy for what it is and what it isn't. When you practice meditation, when you become sensitive to the inner working of energy. In the Oriental tradition, you probably have heard of the terms, they're more familiar than the Kabbalistic terms. In the Orient, they call it yin and yang. Now, that's not idolatry or any stupid such nonsense. In Hebrew, in the Kabbalistic terms, we call it ma and ben. You want to get into all the Kabbalistic stuff, go into all my Kabbalah stuff online at the KosherTorah school, take some of my courses, read my books. It's all explained there. But the point is, energy is real, like everything else is real. Learn from the examples of physical food and its effect on the body. Okay? You just can't do everything that you want without consequences. It's just not going to happen. Sexuality is the doorway to spirituality. It's always been known. All right? So this is very important that we understand. So now, let's get a little deeper in that respect. Let's talk about souls. In our Kabbalistic tradition, there are things known as male and female souls. That's true. We exist in male and female bodies. Now remember something. The soul, called the neshama, is always pure. When we talk about the hindrances between the yesod and the tiferet's the higher self, right? The higher self is always pure. Doesn't matter how promiscuous one has been. Doesn't matter what one has ever done. The soul is always pure. Elohai neshama shenatata bi Torah, right? Always pure. But the body is what gets contaminated. The physical energy of the body. This is why we have the words in Hebrew, nefesh, ruach, and neshama. The three levels of consciousness correspond to different levels of energy. Okay? Body energy is what gets contaminated. That's the nefesh level. Like the Zohar says, sometimes you can't clean it all out. And it does serve as a hindrance. And that hindrance is going to pop up in meditational practices when you're dealing with the klipot that's going to come up into the mind. And remember, everything revolves around the power of the mind. So those people who want to delve deeply into proper meditation will become aware of these husks and shells which cover over them, most likely of our own doing from our behaviors, which we repress or deny. The Nile is not just a river in Egypt. Ha, ha, ha. These things have to be addressed. You have to be able to be honest with these things. This is why we have couples, male, female, balancing right, left columns of the seerot. I have never found a therapy more therapeutic than when a husband and a wife can be completely open about their own personal klipot with one another, if they're able to be. A lot of people can't, so that's why you got to shut up your mouth. But if you're able to, completely symbolically speaking, standing naked in front of the other soul, and that helps peel away the klipot. So there's no shame, there's no embarrassment, there's no denial, but there can be complete acceptability and love and embrace and acceptance of one another. I've always found that to be the most therapeutic process. But that can only happen within the context of a couple. And most people today are afraid to be a couple. Most single people today, especially if you reach like your 50s, I don't think the people who are that old are ever going to be able to find anybody. I don't find them to be willing to make the necessary openness in their lives to do what's necessary. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, like I was sharing with you about dating and stuff, and meeting all these different women and chatting with them. I'll share with you something interesting. Right here through, actually, no, I'm not going to get into details. But anyway, I met this one woman I started to chat with. Boy, she sounded perfect. Great in every which way. Only one problem, right? She was younger than my own children. In spite of what everybody wants to say to me, that's a boundary I couldn't do. No, too young. Why? Not because of any sexual thing, but because someone who's younger than my own children, what kind of future does she have with an old guy? That's not right. That's not moral. That's not proper. Bless her, she should find someone who can make her happy. But you see, that's the way you got to think about these things as human beings. Let's talk about male and female souls again. Male and female souls and the balancing and the harmony of things. And yes, the Kabbalah does speak. Sometimes a male soul comes into a female body and a female soul can come into a male body. That happens a lot. Sometimes you get gay guys who say, I feel like a woman trapped in a man's body. It's very possible. It's not an issue. And let's talk about same-sex love. If you have two guys and two gals who love one another, that's not a problem. There's nothing forbidden about that in halakha at all. The only thing that's forbidden in halakha is for a man to put his penis in the anal cavity of another man. That's the only thing that's forbidden. Other than that, love, intimacy, whatever. I don't have a problem with that. Those of you who are weird out there and have your own ideas, whatever. So with regards to being gay, you know something? What you do in the privacy of your own home is between you and God. No one should be in there and involved. But I've seen gay couples who actually love one another, have a real caring, I say, wow, I'm impressed. God bless you. Sorry if that doesn't meet the condemnation spirit that so many people should think that I should have. But it's true. It's just the way it is. Now, with regards to sexual practices between a committed monogamous relationship, male and female, what you do, you do. Now, there are opinions very clearly written in the Gemara and written in Halakha that you shouldn't look at certain parts of a woman's body, touch or kiss, whatever, something. Those are the opinions of their authors. They're not from God or anything of the kind. So for those who wish to, in the privacy of their committed monogamous relationship, engage in oral sex or even anal sex. Anal sex I'm not a big guy into, but other people are. And something, what you do is sacred between yourselves. So yeah, you got a haskama from the Rav, if you will. And you should explore your spirituality and sexuality. Your sexuality should be a meditative experience. It should be sacred. What happens when I just get horny and I want to do it with the missus? Go for it. If you have that kind of an open and honest and loving and caring relationship, then that is what you should do. And that's exactly the point here. What happens now if you're single and you're really burning up and you're horny? Should you go and get yourself a concubine? Is the concubine being thought of now or just you? Well, all I want is my sexual gratification is fulfilled. Well, I'm going to tell you something that's going to probably get me in a lot of trouble. The Zohar speaks about how bad masturbation is. You know something? Torah doesn't mention it. The rabbis aren't too happy with it. But psychologically speaking and realistically speaking, I would much rather see somebody go in the privacy of their lives, go out and masturbate, than go out and seek out prostitutes or commit immoralities with others, because that's bad. That's bad energy. Much worse than masturbation. That's just the way it is. Adultery. Whenever a woman has intimate relations with another man, The man who she was with before will never be able to get back to the level of bonding with her that was before. That's just energy. That's just the way it is. When they have a level of energy like this and something comes and intervenes between it, you're not going to get rid of it. Such circumstances of halacha, that's why I got a divorce. That's why I got to separate. And this happens. What about a guy who does this? I with the guy in that respect. I don't know if it's the same with the guy in that respect. I know from a woman's point of view, emotionally, it very well might be, and I will respect and honor those things. Because I will tell you right now, anyone who cheats in a relationship, I have absolutely no respect for whatsoever. And any woman or any man, I don't care what kind of relationship you have, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, you have a cheater, as far as I'm concerned, crumble them up and throw them away. I consider such a betrayal to be a fundamental violation, breach of covenant. That's why the example is used in the Bible as the relationship between God and Israel, all right, and unfaithful, partner stuff. It's a big deal. So yeah, I'm very much, against that kind of thing. But now, with all this being said, I'm trying to lay for you down a framework of understanding energy movement and energy flow. If you are not yet sensitive to energy, you have to get first into your body and then into your soul. Body work, exercise, diet, getting off those extra pounds, meditation, not only for relaxation and quiet and calm, but exploration of your own inner self. I speak with many people who tell me, I do this and I do that all the time and I don't feel it. You want to know something? Just because you don't feel something doesn't mean it's not there. Go ahead and eat that, half gallon of ice cream, topped off with this and that, and saying, well, I don't see it making me fat. Wait, the pounds will start coming on. Just because you don't feel something energetically today doesn't mean you can escape the consequences of it tomorrow. Learn from those of us who are a little older and a little wiser, who've been there and done that, who've made these mistakes, right? You think you can get away with stuff. No, you're not. Energy is energy. It is the law of the universe. And that is how things are. Now, let me share with you something again. Well, actually, just a wee bit personal here. As I said, I've been divorced now a couple of months. And, here I am running the KosherTorah school. I don't know if I'll ever find the type of rabbanit that I myself personally would like to find. I'll share an open invitation. How's that? Okay? I'm looking for a rabbanit, someone to help me run the KosherTorah school, who would be a trusted, best friend and confident, someone who shares my views and values of energy, physical health, being athletic, being modern, being grounded, being strong. Right? Any old women out there, if you're willing to be a rabbanit of a school, to be a teacher, a guide, especially if you're an artist, and you can teach in the way that a woman can teach, which is something I as a man cannot do, I have a place for you. I have a place for you in my school. I have a place for you in my life. I have a place for you in my heart. It's an open invitation out there. Will it ever be filled? Well, I guess time will tell. I sit back, stroke what used to be my long beard, and I sit down and I say, I wonder. Because something, I do believe in what we call tikkun. Tikkun means rectification. Tikkun means fixing, repairing, healing. I devote what I do to our KosherTorah school to share with you, to share with the world what we learn. Not to be your teacher. I don't want to give you something other than the opportunity to experience for yourselves. In other words, if you're going to learn with me as a private student, I have academic courses. We teach a whole bunch of stuff. That's one thing. But the focus is on experience that you see with your own eyes, not through mine. So, with regards to couples coming together, you have to remember, it's not two that come together mushed together like that to become one. That's like, collision of the worlds. Everything gets messed up. No, it's two worlds that orbit one another. And they're in proper balance and harmony and sync. Ma and Ben, yin, yang, day, night. All of the metaphors apply. This is the proper way. So recognize now that when we talk about sex, we don't speak of it puritanically. We don't speak of it negatively. It has its place. It has its context. It has its proper expression. And in that proper expression, just like with eating food, enjoy with whatever you have in whichever way you want. Be as sensual, be as erotic as you possibly can be. Read your Song of Songs, Shir HaShirim. Read your Zoharic language, your Kabbalistic language, and you notice it's always in sexual terminologies. That's actually the reason why they don't want men under 40 studying Kabbalah, all because the sexual terminology says arouses them up. We're supposed to be sexual human beings. There's absolutely nothing wrong and everything right with it when it's in a proper context. Monogamous, hopefully lifelong relationship. That's the way it has to be, right? In our Torah tradition, we balance that, of course, what we call chuppah and kiddushin. That's our definition of marriage. Secular marriage, whether or not you have a secular marriage or not, deal with that as long as it's under the context of Torah and Halacha. And the bond is of souls, not of bodies, of souls. Because when you have a true love and a true bond of souls, that's the true and quote tantric relationship. All right? And in that relationship, like I quoted to you the Halacha, the man must always make sure, be law, that his wife comes to climax before he does. And I can give all kinds of sexual advice and how you're supposed to do that kind of stuff. But public forum, probably not the right place to do that. We'll do it in private for those who have to talk to about it. But ultimately, this is very important. The body of your partner is supposed to be sacred. When you come to make love, you're not supposed to be doing it for yourself. You're supposed to be doing it for the other. For those of us who are trained in Taoist practices, you know how to hold back so that you can give to your partner and keep on giving and keeping on giving. And then you open up the channels in the partner to be able to flow back. That's just the way it's supposed to be. So understand now, the act of sex ain't about you. It's about the other. Male, female, it's just the way it is. Think about if you're giving a present to somebody. If you want to give somebody a gift, do you give them something that means something that you want to give them? Or something that you know is going to mean something to you? So for example, I'm a guy, right? Let's say, for example, working around the house. So, you know what? I need a new hammer and nails. Hey, I think that's a great present to buy the missus for a Mother's Day gift. Here's some hammer and nails, dear. All right? If she's any kind of a woman, she'll take that hammer and hit the guy in the head with it. Pray God. No, that's not how we give gifts. Whether it's physical gifts, emotional gifts, any kind, spiritual, psychic, sexual, give to your partner of yourself. Give to your partner what your partner needs, desires. Fulfill what your partner's needs are. That's the definition of love. And if you are loving, you're bonding, you will be able to create that relationship between one another, which will then be able to transcend and transfer energy. And between the two, we balance the tree of the Sefirot, which is the inner psychic arrangement within ourselves. That's why no man will ever be complete without a woman, and no woman will ever be complete without a man. Now, you can say, well, we'll go into the celibate Taoist way and go live off in caves and stuff like that. Well, yeah, that's cool and groovy, but that's not going to bring fulfillment. And according to our Kabbalistic understanding, you're going to have to reincarnate to come on back, get it all done right. So hopefully In our little time together, I've shared with you ideas and beliefs. And like I said, I have nothing written down. So I'm just letting the ideas flow as they do. And I hope and I pray that my message is getting across of what is important. And like I share with you, that which is important is not just academic to me. It's personal in that respect myself, right? Time will tell if I will find a new Rabbanit for you. Someone who I feel comfortable with personally, and someone who I feel confident with, who can be here at my side to teach alongside, to bring a proper balance of male and female to our kosher Torah school. Because ultimately, I'm still a guy, and I confess that. There's only so much that I know and I see. And I might be the wise and holy rabbi Kabbalist, but you know something? I've learned from experience that a woman has her own wisdom and experience. It doesn't have to come from books. And I sit and I listen, and I sit and I learn. And yes, I do learn. So I would love to have my own partner in that respect. And I bless and I pray that each and every one of you should as well. Not to go messing around. Not to go, what do they call it? Hookups? Please, don't waste my time. Heart relationships, soul relationships, bonding in pure openness and love, sensuality. That is the Torah way. That is the good, and that is the Tantra and the Kabbalah of our sexuality. And I hope and pray that God should bless us all, that we can do things in the proper way. That's called halacha. In the proper openness to bring purity, rectification, and healing to our individual lives and souls. And God bless us that we all accomplish this. So I'm your host, Ariel Bar Tzadok, here from our KosherTorah School. Thank you all for listening. Shavua Tov. And we all have a great and good week. God bless us. We'll see you all next time. Shalom.